And that's very different from saying, well, I'm just going to, spend one of my red points, right? I've got my red points on my sheet, and I can spend them whenever I'm in a violent conflict, right? So I spend a red point. Oh yeah, I'm going to narrate. Gee, I don't know. I guess I do this with a spear.
Yeah.
See the difference?
Yeah.
Now, this can lead us down a slippery slope into 15 different combat skills, 20 different combat options, and 52 different specialty nuance points that we use, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a slippery slope to go there, but the interplay among generic versus specific actions and options, because in Pendragon, except for a few moves like Berserk and stuff, it's not just actions that have a name, it's options that you have. The idea that you have options and you can do this or that in a given turn, and that those have consequences to success and failure and to ordering, like with Berserk or stuff like that. That you
Right.
do actually have a chance um, to change up how well you can do by choosing a different option, and
Right.
that different options are suitable given your state of damage, or like in the case of how far down your pool is, or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Um, and so the notion of having options that you choose and apply, as opposed to nameless mechanics effectively, or categorized mechanics at best, which then just become narrated. And why are we
Right.
narrating? Because I guess you're supposed to narrate.
Right.
Even in the pool, which is a fine example of a game where the action is often quite vivid. One of the interesting things about the pool is that although you may have many traits that apply to this situation, you're only allowed to pick one.
Mm.
And that's actually kind of a big deal, because that may be necessary to use that trait for what the specific thing you're trying to do, right? You're trying to grab the opponent and heave him into the lava. Well, your sword fighting may be a +3 and your strength may be a +1, but you're not going to use your sword fighting for that. It's not going to work.
Right.
You're trying to heave him into the lava. Well, I got to take the strength +1. Or you could do it the other way around, where you optimize for your highest trait. That's okay. Nothing's wrong with that particularly.
Yeah.
So, are you seeing that the notion of having options, which you then apply into the role, integrates narration and action and resolution in a fashion that raw resolution and post hoc narration doesn't work? I mean, doesn't do. And also saying, well, you have to talk first, describe it first. That doesn't do anything. It's
Yeah.
still disconnected. I don't care whether you do it before or after.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, has led to the term, narrate, describe, as being, for lack of a better word, a little empty in a number of games.
Yeah.
Now, another thing is in your write-up, what interests me, we have to test it, preferably with a group, right? Because we want several characters in a pitched battle, basically.
Yeah.
Um, do we see big differences, or how independent are these things? Success, the amount of harm you avoid, right, or take, I guess,
Right.
um, and the success of everyone else in your team.
Right.
So, can we get success in our team, but I don't get there? I don't know if that's possible. Do we
Mm-hmm.
have situations where I can succeed, but I'm really hurt?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's kind of an interesting question. I mean, what nuances are available in terms of what options were chosen.
Right.
And I think I'm seeing something that you might recognize in some of our conversations. What I'm seeing here is a real interest in resources, and the actual roles themselves are pretty much success piled on success, right? In other words, getting success and then piling on a ton of it according to
Yeah.
resource.
Yeah.
So, in many ways, um, it's kind of it's a resource game. It's a resource management game,
Yeah.
not a what do the dice do to me game.
Yeah.
And one
I
thing you'll
think I think that.
notice from both Pendragon and Shadow of Yesterday, the dice really talk,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you're like, okay, if this roll blows, this whole fight changed for me, right? The whole
Yeah.
fight changed for me. Whereas if
Yeah.
you're rolling 7 dice, 10 dice, 15 dice, your roll's not going to blow.
Yeah. I think that I was kind of interested in. So the narrator's dice are very bouncy. They can get really really high really really fast. I was interested in the players having in the players having low risk options, which
Mm-hmm.
were which were kind of grindy, but would ultimately lose them the fight. So
Right,
they can use the sort of stable rolls to build up advantage in the form of resources, and the game is about gambling those resources at the right time. So spending your hope at the right time when you have the advantage to re-roll the dice to try to get a good result. And that's when the triumph goes up from like, hanging around 4, 5, 6 to being like 12, 14, 15.
do you
Uh, it,
what would you think of this? What if the foes don't have triumph? They just hammer them. They just hammer the hell out of you. Their successes are just going to hammer you. They're going to rip your base dice down. See, that's what I'm seeing is a race. Don't you see it? It's a race. They're rolling and racing. You're rolling and racing, and you're throwing stuff into it, right? To race faster. Um, let's see. I want to double check on a couple of things. So I'm real interested in the wounds and what do narrator characters get regarding triumph. I'm still
Yeah, so they roll the same 7 dice.
right.
They
Right,
they score
reading them
on
is
one.
not the problem. The point is, what are you getting with
I'm
triumph?
that is damage, so passion loss, and if you lose an amount of damage equal to hope, then you're out of the combat entirely.
Right. So yes. So yeah, actually, so yes, the foes can actually be eating away at your dice, your passion dice, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they can
Okay.
they and because they score their values, not just score
Yeah, I
on
know. Yeah, I
triumph.
saw that. Yeah, it can go way up and down. Yeah. Um, the yeah, that's right. It's interesting. I am interested in this role of activity and the decisiveness of characters.
Mm-hmm.
And I see a lot of management in what you said,
Yeah,
but I don't see the equivalent of my character actually managing to make it to his feet and living through your berserk attack.
right,
I don't see Violet using her athletics to wiggle the spear and manage the spear and drive it right into the guy and kill
right.
him. And that's what I want you to consider. Basically, I don't have much else to say. Um,
Yeah,
And that's kind of in some ways, you kind of choreograph it out and then you just pour resources into it like syrup on pancakes. And you want to do more, you want to fight harder, you want to try something else, fine, squeeze the bottle harder. You've got these resources.
Right.
And that's not quite the same because you're still just, God, my metaphor is running away from me. You're still just eating the pancakes.
Mm-hmm.
That's a terrible metaphor. I'm not going to keep that in the recording. But it is what I mean.
Right.
Right? It's still just eating the pancakes and you're just pouring the syrup on it thicker and thicker. Right. With your resources. Does that make sense? You're not.
It does.
Mm-hmm.
I was just going to say, I think that maybe I have a bad habit of, because I enjoy tactical play so much, and I maybe equate resource management with tactical play.
Yeah, but it's not the character's tactical play. It's not the characters doing tactics.
Right. That's true. Yeah.
So it's something to consider. It may or may not affect your precise numbers in your system, but it is kind of interesting with, the question is whether inspire, defend yourself, lash out, cast a charm, and take advantage is. It seems as though they affect the small points, but they don't really. None of those overturn anything. You can see Pendragon fights where you miss your dexterity roll, on a knockdown, and the fight just really turns. You're like, man, he really that knockdown just turned everything over.
Yeah.
And that's the question: Are you allowing the right move at the right time or a great success with a move at any given time to overturn the way the fight is going statistically?
Yeah, in my playtest, I think the only way that happened was by knocking the enemy out entirely, which is possible.
Right, but I'm talking about the middle, right?
Yes,
doing it in the middle, which is, and so still it's still chancy.
Yeah. Yeah, something to consider.
Yeah. Well, anyway, that's what I got.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Sure. Do you want to say maybe study Circle of Hands before next time?
Yeah.
Yeah, might be the way to go, I think.
Cool.
So, all right. Thanks a lot. It was fun to go through these, actually, ham-handed as I may have been. So, all right. Talk to you later on.